In the beginning, the lake fish enjoyed a wonderful life swimming around the pristine waters of North America. But this was to change with the arrival of people, settling everywhere across the land and particularly around the lakes, thus changing the lives of the fish forever. Amen. Hello there. Welcome to my fishy friends. Now, I've been friends with the wild fish in a few of the lakes in the Laurentians for the last 10 years. And I have a collection of smallmouth bass and sunfish who are all just tremendously friendly, and they swim with me and I feed them, and it's just quite a marvelous relationship. And a whole number of people found out about it. And some people were so bold as to say that they were going to catch those fish and eat them. So on certain days, one couldn't help but worry that they might have been caught, and that would be the end of the relationship. But I had a good friend there who was every day at the beach like we were.
Hello, Algis. It's amazing that you've been coming here for years to see your friends, the fish. They wait for you all winter, and in springtime you call them, they show up, you cuddle them, you pet them, you give them love. You can even hold them in your hands, so it's quite incredible that, and it's a great lesson for the people around here to realize that we're in communion with nature, and that nature is a part of us and we're a part of nature too. So I really admire everything you do. Bless you, Algis, for the fish. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Liz Edwards. I moved to the Laurentian Mountains in 1990 with my 2 children. Our next door neighbor, a man named Larry Demers, was a very kind and helpful gentleman. He had lived there all his life. He told us about the fish and how he had fed them every summer, and that each spring he would knock his special tap tap on the dock, and they would reappear happy to see him. So we began to feed the fish, and we grew to love them. One day, Algis and Byron moved in next door, and so we brought them to feed the fish.
This video is dedicated to my partner, Byron Ayanoglu, who was a real aquatic. He was the #1 swimmer, no matter where we traveled to. And people would say you could set your clock by his swimming. It's because of him and several years in the Laurentians, around St. Adele, Val David, and St. Agathe, I became friends with the local fish, which were primarily smallmouth bass and sunfish, besides the horrifying catfish. And it's these fish that became our only children, and this is their story. My husband, Byron Ayanoglu, taught me to love our oceans, lakes, and rivers during our time together.
Watching the fish, wild and free.
The sunfish, the parrotfish, a fish from Portugal that got trapped here during the melting of the Ice Age.
Like diamonds in the sea.
Now this smallmouth bass here I've called Claude Monet. and I have known him for 7
Did you know
years.
they can feel the pain?
It's a fantastic, wonderful relationship
Did
where
you
we
know
both learn
they
from each
can
other.
feel shame?
Believe it or not, this is one of my signals to my fish. Guess what? It's the eve of my birthday. Hello there. Sure, it's my birthday, but I'm jumping forward now to 9 months later than shooting this scene. And what I have found is that with a lot of my underwater footage, there's a certain sound that's taking place there when the fish are amongst me. And I think it's communication between the fish themselves, that fish actually make a series of sounds and that communicate their feelings and their thoughts of the idea. And you know, I think this is a relevant piece of information to the fish that nobody understands. Fish can communicate and have feelings and understand a lot more things than we give them credit for. And therefore we should be a lot kinder to them and friendlier. And with that said, you know, I hope the best for the sunfish, because it's these fish that I first encountered these sounds when I became friends with them at the start. And it just continued as I watched the footage, this strange sound in the underwater camera. And now I do suspect there is communication between fish with a series of sounds and pulses and whatever. And I find that pretty amazing.
Every day, little Nicky went fishing.
Hello there. Welcome to my world of fishy friends. It was 25 years ago that I first went to the Laurentians and went to Val David and met some very interesting people, and they were occupying themselves feeding the fish occasionally. And so eventually I thought, you know, why not? So I did it just for the hell of it. So I did that for a couple of summers, but along the way I decided I wanted to do something extra, so I decided to have the fish allow me to touch them before I actually fed them. And that worked out pretty well. And then soon after, I decided to imitate my friend Larry Demers and make a beat when I fed the fish, something that I could repeat over time. And that beat was the hockey beat, which was dun 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 dun. So I did that, and I didn't think much of it, but I did it for a couple of summers, and then I moved back to Montreal and didn't go much up to the Laurentians for about 5 years, until some friends came and wanted to visit the area. So we went up there and went back to where Larry used to live, and I thought, you know, I told them I used to be friends with the wild fish here, and they didn't quite believe me, but I decided for, again, the halibut, that I would bang some rocks together in that manner which I had and see what happened. And miraculously, within a couple minutes, 2 bass about this size showed up and immediately caught eyes with me. And I couldn't believe it. You know, fish have a 5-year memory. So it started me off doing something with fish all over the world and in a variety of places. And I just think that's such a good thing. In my grief, I returned to the lake where Byron and I enjoyed so many moments. Life is different here. It's almost relaxing. One searches for answers, but the answers are too plentiful. The fish have been attacked by the catfish that have invaded the lake. So I look for them, and I hope that the eggs of the fish I've befriended will survive.
Little Angie stays away from the hook off her cheek, trying to hide her destroyed cheek, tearing half of her pretty face. Did you know they can? Then he threw her back in the water. Did you know they can? Little Angie almost died. And the love.
I like to bring the fish down to the lily pads because they feel protected under the lily pads, and unfortunately people who own properties alongside the lake eliminate them, and they ruin the lifestyle of the fish that like to hide under these lily pads, so that various birds, ducks, loons don't come after them.
Even if your time is small, you might have the greatest heart of all.
All of life comes from the water. There are water gods everywhere, from India to Thailand to Middle East, Northern Ireland to South America, to even here among our natives. Signs of waves and fish can be found.
And the love. Yes, the love. From watching my friends to fish, they sure taught me a lesson. Even if your time is small, you might have the greatest heart of all. You can feel, you can love.
When you're underwater in a lake trying to take pictures of fish, you're not allowed to touch anything. If you stir against any plant or the bottom of the lake or a big rock in the lake, it will just fill the whole area immediately with tons of filament and making it unsightly to even try to photograph it. So many of the pictures you take, you have to kind of jettison yourself off a little bit safely and see where the fish are and just slowly glide in and take as many pictures as you can without disturbing anything. And the rule of thumb for me is about 350 pictures gets you 1, 2, or 3. I've never gotten more than that. It's so frustrating.
Here in the deep, the catfish are on the prowl. They are looking for their
lunch, brunch, and dinner. And there is a variety of them. I think there's 2 or 3 different species. And they are formidable predators.
The catfish. What are we going to do with the catfish? Catfish is going to eat us. Catfish is going to eat us. The catfish is going to eat us. What are we going to do? I want to get everyone out of the shallow area of the lake.
Here is a wonderful sunfish nest. This is where they lay their eggs. And they are configured in a manner that all others copy. A lot of gray rocks and a few white rocks. Now this whole story would have never occurred if it wasn't for Liz Edwards, who's going here to make her homage to the lake. She taught me how to feed fish, and I just expanded it from there. Her ideas of water as a sentient being to herself is such an alien abstraction, but I believe there's some truth to it. So when she's out running on the frozen top of the lake, making sacred geometry for those that we love and we've lost, and the fish below, only makes me feel so much better that I'm involved with a person like her. Now, sacred geometry and water is one of the most amazing aspects of our planet, and it's something taken for granted. A lot of people don't believe it's true, but water contains our thoughts, hopes, and wishes. And to actually go out and physically make sacred geometry on a lake top can only benefit all those sentient creatures that rely on the sacred subject, such as water, as ourselves. So Liz runs on and encourages me, and I have furthered her original teachings up to the point where I touch and cuddle the fish. The fish remember me year after year, and some fish, over 5 years come back when I beat the sacred tune that I taught them when I was feeding them. So life is evolving around water, light, sun, and love.
Masaru Emoto, a Japanese author of the hidden messages of water, believed that human consciousness could affect the very molecule structure of water. He treated different waters once. I can't hear myself because my water. He did experiments where water was treated badly, roughly, shouted at, spat on, and other water was treated lovingly, kindly, blown kisses to. Then he froze this water. When he compared the ice crystals, he found that the good water, the water treated lovingly, was exquisite formations, beautiful to look at, and the sad, badly treated, abused water was fractured and broken and ugly. He believed that water remembered and could pass these good and bad feelings on to us. What better way to get to know water than to be friends with the very living beings in the water, the fish that I fed and swam with. One day, my children became quite ill with a terrible cough, left them pale and gasping. Desperate to bring their fevers down, I got them to bathe in the water of the lake, where the fish swam. They recovered remarkably. By the end of the day, they no longer coughed. After that, I knew when they were ill to ask them to bathe in the lake. And when it was too cold, I collected water where the fish swam, and they drank it and recovered rapidly. Fish
are involved in today's society through the pet industry. the recreational fishing industry, and fish farming. Fish are also essential to the oceans, lakes, and river ecosystems that we all as humans depend on. While fish are often thought to lack intelligence and emotional capability, they are in fact sentient creatures, meaning they have feelings and can experience both positive and negative emotions.
That's wonderful.
So being emotionally inclined, when the sunfish witness vast amounts of the smaller sunfish disappearing by being eaten by the catfish, they live in fear. Contrary to popular belief, fish do have great memories. Some species of fish can recognize and remember humans that give them food rewards, which I've been doing for 7 years. And the fish always recognize me. They like to catch eyes with you, and they like to come right up into your face and see you. So the fish that are friends with you can identify you, and you create a bond between each other. Fish can also remember musical tunes. One group of researchers fed their fish while playing a specific song before releasing them into the wild. 5 months later, the fish returned when the song was played at sea. Now, being friends with any kind of fish is such a beneficial, therapeutic thing for your heart, mind, and soul. And I've maintained mine with the bass and the sunfish, but the sunfish, which did come from Portugal, is a fish that grows about as big as a Volkswagen Beetle. And if you were to have a fish tank, which is another form of therapy that helps everyone from young kids to older adults with various ailments, that the fish offer you a ability to heal various aspects of your soul and your abilities just by simply watching them and caring for them. And it is probably one of the best things you can do for yourself, and is a very inexpensive hobby. So if you can't swim with the fish, you can certainly watch them here. It has become known that fish will avoid situations they know to cause them pain, and will seek out experiences with rewards. So I can understand my fish always remembering me year after year of arriving at a certain time in the early spring and feeding them all summer long, so that they have a good stored up amount of fat for the 5 months that they probably are in limbo, just sleeping off frozen hours of winter. Even though fish do not have vocal cords, they still excel at communicating with one another. They accomplish this through various sounds, scents, electrical pulses, and motions. Along the way, I imagined what Claude Monet was like. I named one of my fish after him. Claude Monet had made himself a fantastic garden with a waterway, and he must have enjoyed the fact that fish lived there in such a splendid area of France. So it occurs to me occasionally that during the fall, as I am no longer swimming because the water's too cold, what do the fish think? Do they think of me? In the middle of winter, are they thinking, just in a few more months, that human will be back feeding us and caring for us? And that leaves me feeling joyous that I'm helping the greater picture of the world and delivering something to an unrecognized animal that's considered dumb, stupid, and has no feelings whatsoever, and changing that around to appreciation and love for this aquatic animal. I've noticed over the years with my fish that they have the ability to change colors depending on the camouflage needs, environmental conditions, and time of year. They also change their colors when they're being most aggressive towards other fish trying to get my attention or keep me all to themselves. Fish are possessive and will allow you into their family of friends because they understand the beneficial nature of what I'm trying to do here. So I make an imaginary situation in which Monet is painting fish in his beautiful garden in Giverny, and that he's looking at these images of fish he's painted, and that it expands both his understanding and appreciation for aquatic life, but at the same time the necessity for being beneficial to another animal that has so few rights here on this planet. During the winter months, I've noticed several people out ice fishing, and I always try to lead them astray. I always try to say, hey, yeah, you're right, this is the best place for the fish, or the best place is over there, to keep them away from mine. Much of this movie is because of my lover, who was a real aquatic gentleman, a man who loved all bodies of water, and it was through him that I found the time to become friends with the fish and to share and try to help and make their lives a little bit better because of one movie from Star Trek where they saved the whales. So I figured this could happen with small fish as well. Now, the catfish is an invasive species. I don't think it really existed up in Canadian waters or rivers, but it got here via the St. Lawrence River. And from there it branched out to the other rivers, and eventually it came up the North River. And as I suspect, it hangs out where streams run into the river, and they stay there a few days and they sniff the water to see if they can smell other fish in that water, which I think they can, and then they proceed up the stream and get a hold of your lake. Now, the catfish are very territorial, and they're very smart. They work together in pairs and triplets. One will hide under the mossy ferns underwater, and the other two will drive the fish towards it, and so it can capture it. And so, this is pretty sneaky business. I guess, killer whales do that too, and other fish, but I don't think bass or sunfish do that, so you gotta watch out for the catfish. I usually don't come this time in the morning, but today I'm coming early to see if my fish are waiting. One of the very interesting stories in ancient philosophy comes from the country Greece. And this story pertains to that once upon a time, the most prestigious thing you could bring to someone you were trying to impress was to bring an eel. Now, the eel was considered special because it could both live on land and in the water. And if you were to bring a gift to someone, the most awesome thing was bringing an eel for them to eat. Now, it was considered, a big delicacy, and the Japanese eat it as well. Now, is eel a fish? Not really, but it's in between fish and a snake, I suppose. But who would have thought that? Eel was once the most prestigious food to give to someone.
And one bright summer day, little Nicky went fishing.
It is often said that the best way to learn something is to teach a man to fish. In other words, it's better to learn how to do something so that you can do it again in the future, rather than simply having someone else do it for you.
Hi, I'm Danny Cote. I'm a fisherman by passion. I've been fishing since I was about 5 years old. It's not true that the barbels are electrified. What it does is the barbels only act like radars. So they detect the food in the mud and the bottom of the lakes. To catch them with your hands or your feet, what you do is, it's called noodling. You put your hand in the hole and they're going to bite you. So if you do noodling with the barbu, be careful, because they can pull you in the hole and you're going to drown. If your head is in the water when she bites you, it's dangerous. Don't do this alone. You got to do this in a teamwork, so somebody can pull you out too,
Although I've been feeding my fish a variety of things, in the beginning 25 years ago, I was just feeding them corn and spring peas. Now I've evolved to feeding them chicken wieners, chicken hot dogs, the least amount of fat and salt, and it gives them protein so that they're able to repair their bodies at a time when there isn't a superfluous amount of insects to be eaten, and fill that aspect of their food chain and life sustenance. I bring my fish out to the setting sun, which is now that far from the beach. But for the most part, most of my fish are here right underneath me. I haven't fed them in 3 days because it's been too cold. But we'll take another look down there and see what feeding time looks like. They're really voracious, but I make sure I spread the food around so everybody gets enough. And bugs are in a big shortage this summer. For some reason, there are not many bugs at all. So with that said, I'm going to go back under and feed my fishy friends.
I was saying, I don't know. We seem to have plenty of bugs here, but I don't have to clean my windshield nearly as often as I used to. No bugs. Less.
Upon feeding them, it's just marvelous to see how they all compete to get the most of
a unexpected treat from a human, all people. But they too eat it up, and I'm so pleased and proud as a mother to have fed them to such a good extent. On top of the lake, all kinds of activities keep taking place, and people do see the fish and enjoy them, but they do not understand they are under a big attack from the catfish. And wonder about are the fish happy? Is my life for real? All of these things interplay with the grief of the loss of my husband, Byron Ayanoglu. So I pray to our only children that we have, which are these fish here in this lake where we both swam together for so many hours and enjoyed ourselves. So I hope for the best, and I hope to nourish these sunfish and make their lives a little bit better. Part of this experience has been because of Jesus. Jesus was originally known as the fishy prophet. He was illustrated in the earliest of times as a fish, and people communicated with that.
Fish were mainly Christian symbols. Despite being found all over the world, they represented the first 4 letters of Jesus Christ. And ichthyos is an antonym for Jesus. Persecuted Christians would sometimes scratch the symbol of the fish in order to self-identify or to recognize another Christian. One would draw the top line and the other would finish this bottom line.
You see, what happens here is that most of the fish that exist here in Lac Round have been bought by the city from a few companies that grow fish to sell to townships for their lake. So anyways, these townships grow a variety of fish, trout, bass, and they sell them to the cities, the towns, so they can stock their lake with these fish. But what happens is these fish know nothing about the reality of living in a lake. They grew up in a small dugout, circular trench, and have been fed daily. And there's nothing to question about a life like that. There's no rock formations underwater or plants. So when they get dumped into a lake like this, they just freak out. They don't know what to do. Where's the food? What do you eat? I mean, it's really a pitiful, horrific scenario for the fish themselves. So I spot them and get them to join my club, and I feed them. I primarily was feeding the sunfish to get them big enough so the catfish could not eat them, because the catfish is primarily the diet of the catfish is the sunfish, and that is the blue catfish and the channel catfish that are plentiful all over North America. But it's a pretty scary situation to be let off into this foreign place with other fish that you don't know of, and plants, and rocks and people. Because the sunfish is primarily the diet of the catfish, I've noticed over the last several years that the brightly colored, tropical-looking sunfish is changing colors. I think somehow they understand that their brilliant hues are what's causing them to be seen so easily by the catfish and eaten. I've seen whole coves of small sunfish completely devoid of sunfish because the catfish is so formidable. So I see the style and manner of the sunfish has changed. The colors have changed, and they tend to be hanging out in deeper water where the catfish does not hang out. And this is their key to survival, besides their colors changing from brilliant to more bland and commonplace, like the other fish in the lake. This is like round. Not only do we have a problem with catfish, but someone put their goldfish in here. And, a few goldfish in this lake, and 5 years later, there were like 100 red carp, that had taken over the lake. But they're not as troublesome as the catfish is. I mean, the catfish is a real diligent predator. And it not only hunts during the day, but it also hunts during the night. And what a horrible way to go as a sunfish, that you're sleeping there at night and all of a sudden, because of its electromagnetic whiskers, it tunes into you like some science fiction scenario, and that's the end of your world. So I'm all for the sunfish. Viva la sunfish! So I want to tell you about another extraordinary thing about the sunfish, is that they're known as the kissing fish. That if you become familiar with them, they will swim around you, and if you have any extruding moles or skin tags, they will bite them off cleanly, and they won't even bleed, as I have found myself. So, why spend money at the dermatologists when you can buy some chicken hot dogs, chop them up in little bits, go to where the sunfish are, and have your body manicured. Over the years, I've noticed a lot of problems with the fish and their complexions. I've noticed there's a lot of sores and what looks like malignant growths and things like that, and it's primarily because of us. I mean, we put toxic things on our gardens, and our houses leak into the ecosystem with its sewage. There's chlorides put on our roads during the winter, and all of this affects the fish. Fish are also a time-based animal that if you rendezvous with them at a certain time, they're generally speaking there. I'll try to come back later on today around 3 or 4 and see if they're waiting for me. That will give me a little more conclusive evidence to their time-based lives like ours. Imagine that. In life, there's something called the fish philosophy. And the fish philosophy is to make your life better. One of them is starting your day with the right attitude. Then it's about making someone's day. You know, like try to make someone's day. It's also about being there for others. And the final one is combining all these things together. And the final aspect of the fish philosophy is play. You should play and have a good time. Life is short. And life is so much better if you practice it. So with that said, yeah, fish philosophy is the one for me. Thank you. I've been interested in water, fish, and theology since I was a young boy, 55 years ago. And it all started from watching a variety of television shows. One called Sea Hunt, the other called Flipper, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And so we had a cottage on the side of a lake, and all us children would go swimming, but my younger brother Mark always excelled, swam faster, deeper, and I was a little bit jealous of that. No matter how hard I tried, I could never outdo my brother Mark when it came to swimming. Eventually I discovered that my brother Mark had webbed feet, which aided him and made him so prolific in the water. And it was just amazing. I didn't think so much about it at that time, but later when I was discovered that Jesus could walk on water, I thought my brother Mark could walk on water too if he actually tried. He was so good. And then later, when I discovered in Greek mythology the various fish gods and lake gods, water gods, I thought to myself, maybe Mark had some of that divine luck and was blessed and was even a little bit in their league. May he always rest in peace. Eventually, I discovered there were a variety of sea gods in Greece, and you might recognize some of them. Poseidon, Aphrodite, Triton. Quite amazing, the collection of their sea gods. So having discovered these water gods from Greece, it always made me wonder, was my brother Mark somehow connected to them? And was he truly a special person?
Larry believed he'd been reincarnated. He believed in reincarnation. He had had a past life in Egypt and knew so much about all the Egyptian gods and the mystic principles behind their belief system. He also knew about the fish god, Dagon. So, the Hebrew word for fish is dag-dag, which might have been the foundation of Dagon's name. He was seen as a half of a man and a half of a fish. The priests of the Dagon used to wear a hat that resembled the open mouth of the fish, and to this day, that is what the Pope's hat looks like, an open mouth of a fish. So this is how the impact of Dagon influenced all of us and all of our higher religions.
Hello guys, my name is Sebastian, Guévin Francoeur. I'm fresh from Montreal and I lived in the mountains, Laurentides, Québec, Canada, all my life. And I've traveled a lot in the world, and what I can say about fish is that, well, for my own self, I think that fish is the food of the gods. When you go to places where they fish since so many 100 years ago, well, like Spain or whatever in the world, because fishes are fished all around the world since so long. And I think that we should really take care of this world of the oceans, because I think it's a food that can just bring us peace and comfort in our own body. So I will just say to you guys, take care of fish in the world, and appreciate every time you eat some fish or whatever product come from the fish, because it's very important in this world. And I think it will always be. It's like a value for eternity, kind of. So taking care of all, peace, take care.
Hey, thank you. Because we seem to be in another extinction period, I've included this talk by my partner Byron, who talks about Atlantis. Because what befell them is certainly going to happen to many of us due to global warming and the melting of the glaciers.
Και έτσι χάθηκε η Ατλάντιδα, όπως έγραψε ο Πλάτων. And so, this is how Atlantis was lost, as Plato wrote. Such was the vast power which Poseidon settled in the lost island of Atlantis, that for many generations the Atlanteans, grateful to the god whose seed they were, united gentleness with wisdom in the various chances of life and in their relations with one another. They despised everything but virtue, caring little for their present state of life and thinking lightly of the possession of gold and other property, which seemed only a burden to them. But when the divine portion began to fade away and human nature got the upper hand, they turned to behaving unseemly and no longer espoused virtue, honoring instead the meaningless, two-headed pursuit of wealth and vainglorious power. Zeus, the god of gods who rules according to law and is able to see into such things, perceiving that an honorable race was in a woeful plight, decided to inflict punishment on them. He summoned violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night of misfortune, all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth, and the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea.
Larry told me this interesting thing about octopus is that they have the ability to write their own RNA and DNA and to implement it.
Really?
They have brains in their tentacles. They have better DNA than us.
That's simply amazing. So how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? Why, it takes tentacles.
Come with me, and you will see where I have been in my head and in my dreams. All the lakes and rivers I swam into, all the oceans where life took me to, carried away, dancing in the waves, close when you feel sad as black clouds, seasons go by, and the sun will shine again. There are treasures in the river, as the fish are changing colors, carried away. Dancing in the waves.
It's always exciting down here because you never know what you're going to find. Today, I found 3 people fishing in this pond where it's illegal. So I had to tell on them because if you just look over there, you'll see my fish are just swimming about waiting for me, you know. And today I got the good stuff. I have pure pork sausage that I'm going to feed them, which I have to do very carefully because the guard doesn't want me to really feed these fish, but I feel I have to because the fish are undergoing such a big crisis at this time. This is where my fish hang out down here, and I've been friends with them for 5 years. They've come back, you know, every year for 5 years, and it's quite amusing. The bigger fish want to compete with the smaller fish for the food, meaning the more I let them touch them, the more sausage they get. And they do. On occasion, you know, they really let me rub their whole body. One time last year, one was caught with a fish hook, and I complained to the authorities here, and they actually removed the fish hook by the next day, which made me very impressed with this place. So it's a little bit of heaven, and it's a little bit of unorthodox friendship that keeps one marveling at this place. And you might never know that fish could be so dynamic and friendly if you weren't here doing it.
Well, I did it. I arrived at 7, and most of my fish were there. I had about 25 sunfish and 4 smallmouth bass. And they're always waiting for me, and I love them. And I am hoping that as they swim around me, they shed an electromagnetic corrective field on my body. I can feel them rubbing against my legs as I'm swimming back. And this is just a good sign. Love them.
Oh my! The other day I was feeding my fish, and I know the catfish follow me. They know what I'm up to. And I was feeding my fish, and I feel this bite on my leg, and I think, what the heck is that? And when I looked down, it was the catfish. Now, I don't know if that's a warning from it, but as my neighbor tells me, catfish are very territorial, and that must be it. This is their feeding ground now, and they know to follow me. And because wherever I go, food is there, the sunfish for them. So, one has to be so careful being friends with wild fish. You see, with bass, even though you're the same size as the catfish, you really can't sleep, because if the catfish comes from behind and destroys your tail and you have no ability to move forward, you'd be laying there at the bottom of the lake while they slowly come and eat you alive. A most disgusting death. When I'm swimming in the lake, I encounter other swimmers who stumble upon me and my fish, and I see how they interact. They, generally speaking, are curious, but they're not as friendly as they are with me because we look so drastically different. So they come back. But if the swimmer stays there for a while and there's not much more reception or interest in them, they do swim back over as they swim away, which I think is a bon voyage. The fish have the ability to give you a bon voyage. So guess what? Today I'm feeding my fish cherries. Yeah, you heard that right. I'm going to give them chopped up cherry. Have it here in my chest, and we'll see what they think of that. That's rather exciting for me. So my fish like cherries, but they don't like boiled potatoes. Which is a shame, because that would be real economical to feed them, but there isn't much protein in potatoes, so I will still continue with my chicken wieners. Now, while I'm recording this, the fish are biting on my derriere. They can probably smell the chicken wieners in my back pocket, and they are hungry for them, let me tell you. The thing is, fish are sentient beings. They have feelings, they have relationships, they have memories, and they're scaredy cats. Anything they don't understand, they just keep away from it. But with humans, another bond occurs, and nobody's, actually done it but a few favorable people on the planet that have made friendships with fish, belugas, and a variety of others. But another little point I would like to make is that I'm swimming with the fish so that they correct my electrical frequencies in my body. Now, this discovery came after the Cold War, when the Russians had a whole bunch of dolphins that they were training to put landmines on submarines. Now, with the Cold War over, people used to go swimming with those dolphins and find all kinds of miraculous healing properties of swimming with the dolphin. And the dolphin also is an animal that's very high in intelligence and has a vocabulary of about 50 sounds, besides also using morphic resonance. I heard something funny the other day. A person said they thought fish ate seaweed in order to get high. No, of course, I don't want anyone eating my fish, but 3,500 years ago in Egypt, they knew that the omega-3 fats in fish enhance their pineal gland, which is the third eye of the human being, that which enables you to have religious experiences and knowledge outside the mainstream. Now, in Iceland, they have also found it strengthens your pineal gland, and it also benefits your mood and attitude during the dark winter months. And that was from eating cod, salmon, and sardines. So fish is a major food resource, but it's something we have totally abused. And Let's just pray it never runs out.
So though Dagon lived 2,500 years ago, imagine he had an offspring. And who could his offspring be? Who would be an amphibious man but Jesus? Jesus, who was known to have webbed feet. And maybe that's why he rode a donkey into the town, because his legs were weak. And maybe that is why he told the disciples to teach a man to fish, so that he would fish forever. And perhaps when he walked on the water, he was walking on the water as a dolphin does.
Aspect of all this is that the fish are totally aware that the food is in the plastic bag. And they get excited and actually go into a frenzy once the appearance of the plastic bag is there. Then some of the smarter fish, are really smart, Alex, and they try to rip it open and shed the ingredients so I can't distribute it so evenly, so everyone has a chance to feed. Recently, I was away from here for 5 days because the lake was shut down, and my biggest 2 bass are not here today, so I hope someone did not find out and fish them. And I'm glad that I'm here to feed them protein so he can heal. So otherwise, I'm cold and I should go back under and finish doing this. And hope for the best.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est Danny. I speak English a little bit. And I'm going to talk to you about
My
barbot.
wife is
The barbot is a fish that eats at the bottom of lakes. They eat what is left from the dead fish, from the dead vegetation, and all the cemetery that like salt and ferrous things, because all the animal need salt and I don't know, fire is ferrous things for your body and everything. So the barbot is that. If you fish barbot, you are allowed to fish with 2 hooks. You can put 2 hooks on your line, and you put live worms, dirt worms, and you can catch 12 barbot on your permit before you have to stop. The barbot is easy to catch because with 2 hooks, with 2 worms, it goes. You can leave your line on the water, in the water, and you wait till the next morning, and for sure you're gonna have 2 barbot for sure. But il y a la barbu aussi. The barbu is bigger and it's black. The barbot is gray with a little tummy, if you like. But the barbot is really bigger, but it's black. It's really a black fish, but it's really big. The mouth is incredible. Incredible. It can go from 10 pounds to 70 pounds. But the barbot only goes to about 12 to 13 pounds. That's a fucking big...
Now, regardless of my difficulties with the catfish, upon researching them, I found out in Japan there was a giant catfish called the namazu that lived in the caves underneath Japan. And they discovered that several hours before an earthquake occurred, the catfish became very agitated and predicted the earthquake 80% of the time. So the Japanese were always able to be prepared for the worst possible kind of scenario. So with that said, let's hear it for the giant catfish of Japan.
My name is Nina, and I am the mermaid of this lake. In Ukrainian, we call that a rusalka. So I'm the rusalka of this lake. Right, Eddie? Yep. Here to blur out the cellulite. A very long time ago, when I was a little girl, my father went sailing. He liked to go sailing, and he was gone a long time, and a storm blew in, and I was very concerned. And I wished at that point that I was a mermaid, because then I could dive into the water and go and find him and do what mermaids do, which is, you know, save sailors and guide them from trouble. And so I always remember a story that my grandmother told me about how in the Ukraine, the word for mermaid is rusalka, and that means mermaid, but it's the same word in Russian, but in Russian, it's a very evil creature, like a lake witch that comes out and does trouble and, you know, leads the sailors astray and leaves them for dead. So I prefer to be the Ukrainian mermaid. And from that day on, I just always wished that I could be reincarnated one day as a mermaid so that I could do all those things and help the people and be a good rusalka and have a tail. I would love a tail so I could swim faster.
So when you're out in the ocean, what does the sea ever say to you?
The sea never really says anything, but it always waves, you know, so I appreciate that.
So tell me, how do mermaids send messages?
Well, I know it's old-fashioned, but I still use sea mail.
Where do mermaids keep their money?
Well, I keep mine at the local riverbank. It's safe. All the trout go there.
What kind of phone does a mermaid use?
Well, it's a shell phone. A shell phone. You know, hello, hello, oh, hello. It's Neptune. What does a mermaid really not want to find at the end of the night or a long night? Semen. Another big question I get is, where do mermaids and fishermen meet? Well, online. My name is Nina and I am a mermaid. I do not have my tail right now, it's at the dry cleaner, but I am a mermaid.
Where do mermaids see movies?
Well, in the dive-in.
Why are fish so skinny? That's because they eat other fish. And it's a hierarchy.
Hey, Otis. I'm here in Vancouver, and I'm almost underwater, which reminds me of a joke. What did the fish say when it hit the wall? Damn.
Good.
So, I hear you're making a movie about our friends the fish, and I just wanted to share with you some background about what they're up against in our modern world, and how they are constantly having to deal with our wastewater in filtering into their environments. Specifically in freshwater environments. I read an article about how the fish are becoming slowly addicted to both our illicit drugs and our prescription drugs.
Yikes.
It's a funny thing with when it's diluted into their freshwater world. This is, of course, where they are getting it and loving it. You know, almost like you spend with your fish when you hold your breath. You know, those precious moments under water. There you go. So yeah, fish are an interesting gauge for what's happening with us and what we're doing to help keep their environment a beautiful place. Yes. I'm not holding my breath now, but
So I'm just curious, what things are washing down from the from our society into their society? Like, what are the substances?
well, apparently, as I said, the illicit drugs are anything from cocaine, methamphetamine, which are sending the fish into anxietous withdrawal, because they had there is a toxicity that we're passing on. So, how do you think Byron would feel about this gentle and wonderful time of you swimming with the fish?
There's one thing else I'd like to say about fish, is that fish have the ability to use morphic resonance. Now, morphic resonance is a theory by Dr. Seldrake, where all animals have an internet to themselves where they pass on information and things they've learned. So, when the springtime comes and I go to feed my fish for the first time, and the first fish I see is Claude Monet, and he gets fed, this information passes quickly to all the other fish. And this is a key information source for all animals, be it fish or bears or coyote. Morphic resonance.
Maybe you're just a merman.
Perhaps so.
Just that the Vietnamese believe that if you're going to eat a fish, the best part to eat is the tail, because that's where all the energy is. It's the thrust of everything that is fish.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So with that said...
Yes, everyone needs good tail.
Alrighty. So thank you for that, Langley.
Yeah, yes. Let me just get to the surface and thank you. Hold on. Here we go. Okay.
Bravissimo.
After a hard winter, I came back on the water to see my friends the fish. They were all so skinny. Global warming had made food hard to find. Little Angie stayed away from me, trying to hide her destroyed cheek. Did you know they can feel pain? Did you know they can feel the shame? And the love. Yes, the love. From watching my friends to fish, they sure taught me a lesson. Even if you're tiny and small, you might have the greatest heart of all.
my friend I'll just come and we go for a long, long, slow swim. And afterwards I feel peaceful and content, just as I did in those days when the fish were my friends.
I always need to feed. I must eat or I get an upset stomach, you see. See my precious meal, the sunfish. Oh, I'll get you if not today, then tonight, when you can't see me coming. I'll find out where you're resting, even though some people say, why did the catfish have trouble sleeping? It was because the bass next door was too loud. Warning the sunfish was coming. Well, I'll get you too one day when I'm big enough. Oh, and as for your stupid joke, give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach him to catch catfish and he eats for life. How disgusting.
Yesterday while swimming in the lake, I spotted 8 big catfish, which means this whole area you see behind me has been decimated of sunfish because of the formidable catfish. Now today, I've come with chopped chicken kosher hot dogs with green peas and spring corn and carrot. You know, giving them a full meal and all the vitamins and protein they need to make up for the lack of bugs and whatever in the lake. Oh, God bless them. Well, oh, everybody's here. Several bass, got the sunfish, the catfish. I'm letting the catfish eat. I'm not smacking it anymore on the nose. You know, you have, the catfish is like a cat. Who can't like a cat? Who are we to speak or hate another species of living entity that managed to have the miracle of life here on this, catfish. The catfish is feels like it's kissing my knees. All right, more food. So I gotta go.
All the lakes and rivers I swam into.
Well, one thing I've noticed over the years is the fact that when you become friends with wild bass, they become possessive. And the first bass I became really good friends with tries to keep all the other bass away, They want you all to themselves, especially as they're being fed. So, bass are possessive, and that's a good thing. The final thing is that it's been several years that I've been collecting this video footage, and over this period of time, thousands of the sunfish have vanished from the lake. It's almost palpable that you can feel a sadness in the other fish, wondering where everyone's disappeared to if they haven't witnessed it themselves. Who knows if they'll survive, but all of life is all trying to survive. So I wish sunfish my best, and I hope the bass stand up for them and protect them, because there's no other fish that can stand up to the catfish in the lake.
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. LaRue. I'm a retired physician. Sometimes, on occasion, people come to my office asking about clammy, sweaty, cold hands that they refer to as this fishy handshake. And obviously, most of those conditions is due to stress or anxiety, which could be hyperhidrosis, which is profuse sweating, or diabetes, or low blood pressure. But thankfully, those conditions are rare and don't happen too often. And most of the time, just being more relaxed, doing some meditation, sleeping properly, avoiding like stimulants like coffee will help in those situations. And that's about it. So hope you have a good afternoon. You take care.
Well, I'm sorry. I have to apologize. I've made a big mistake. It's not the catfish that are terrifying the sunfish and eating them all. The culprit is actually the bass, whose primary diet is the sunfish. And in fish farms, they feed the bass sunfish. So all fish eat fish, and no one is to blame. And I feel sorry for treating the catfish so badly, thinking it was them, because at one point I had several big bass and several big catfish, and the sunfish were just disappearing, although I never ever saw either fish eat one, although I kept looking for it. So I forgive the fish, and I forgive Mother Nature for stepping in and making accusations that were incorrect. May nature carry on as she beautifully does, and the rest of us, let's just live long and prosper and use the fish philosophies.
Can be found in all the species that surround you, in all the lakes and rivers you'll swim into, in all the oceans where life will take you to.
Well, all things change with time. People come and go, and so do the animals. Unfortunately, this year I suspect Claude Monet, Aphrodite, and Cleopatra have been caught and probably consumed. The catfish has taken over. The catfish attacks me and bites me, tells me it's his territory. Claude Monet, Aphrodite, and Cleopatra are no longer swimming with me after feeding time back to the beach. Oh. So may all these fish rest in peace, and my two other great fish, my dear husband Byron Ayanoglu, and my good buddy pal Pierre. May they all enjoy excellent days in heaven. So sometimes in the winter, I come down to the lake before it snows over and the ice is still clear, and I bang my certain beat in the area where I rendezvous with my fish. And it's just marvelous where 1, 2, or 3 of them show up, just going to prove that fish are capable of a variety of thoughts and understandings, and this just makes being friends with them so marvelous.